Those of you who've seen some of our other videos then will already know we're somewhat partial to a bit of spreadsheetery in Microsoft Excel, and today we're going to be a freak in the sheets once again as we head into the Build a Beast workshop. So today we've got 5 other FM content creators or enthusiasts to compete in a new challenge, which could fast become a new series on this channel. And the objective is simple: create a beast of a player with 100 points to spend across all non-hidden attributes, where 10 is your default and minimum attribute value across the board otherwise. We will then upload the profiles onto an 18-year-old free agent in the game and simulate to the end of the 2037 season. And the winner then is whomever comes out as the most decorated player, or else the player that reaches the highest level / world reputation throughout their career. Before we meet the contestants then, if you haven't discovered this channel yet, where have you been? We've got nearly 11,000 subs now, and we actually have the highest subscriber to view ratio of any other Football Manager channel. Yes, even that guy. If you do subscribe, our latest 2 vids on the channel are ad-free and you won't miss any high-octane moments like this one. Okay, I've got 1 more point to spend. I think I'm going to spend it on anticipation. Put that to 11. Okay, let's see who's being created in the Build a Beast workshop then. Starting off with my build then, and I've gone with an archetypal advanced forward, maximum dribbling and first touch, a resoundingly strong set of decisions, composure, off the ball and reasonable heading as well. I should say that in order to keep this a test of these specific attributes only, I've made everyone the same height and weight where plausible. I've also set everyone's hidden attributes to the same values across the board. My other caveats then are that we are all English except for the Flying Scotsman naturally, and I've also taken all player traits away from us, and we've each been allocated our recommended current ability at the end of our editing and set our reputation scores to exactly the same figures at the point of commencement. Essentially then what I opted for here is a fairly selfish striker who can break the back line, who is pretty fast but with not too much to write home about technically. Next, we're going to have a look at BradTP then, who has built themselves one hell of a pressing forward. Natural fitness here is through the roof, and this is their only maxed out attribute. 18 determination here as well, by the way, and this is going to be the highest determination amongst all 6 of today's free agents, so let's see how that aids them from a young age. A reminder then that we're all starting out at age 18 in this test. Brad has definitely gone with physicals over technicals again, but slightly more emphasis on technique and aggression than I went with. Next up is FM Russ, who you can follow on Twitter as well as YouTube. All links to fellow content creators, by the way, will be down in this video's description, as you might expect. Russ has a proper workhorse and speed demon on his hands. Highest anticipation amongst the group, but majoring in first touch, work rate and basically running in every sense. In their words, he's a pacey striker with great stamina, excellent first touch and concentration, works hard for the team and happy to put a tackle in, can pick a pass out and has the composure to ensure it's the right move for the team. OdinWhiteHairGaiming is next, and they have majored on mental and physical attributes too. Very pacey with low ground clearance and an advanced forward for sure. They are really strong in this middle section here. Interesting to see 15 in flair in my opinion. In their words, what we are looking at is Mo Salah Mark II. Penultimately then, it's Davelklatzen. No half measures on this guy, opting for 15s and 20s in the majority of their chosen boosted attributes. 20 heading, 19 jumping reach, 20 bravery as well. This guy is going to soar through the air. In their words, this is a rich man's Kyle Hudlin. Big strong boy with some pace and mentals to help in the air. He is there to be a target for crosses and a threat on set pieces, whilst still having great attributes to score from open play. Selfish player, so hoping to score more for himself rather than assisting others. If height is a thing, I would like to be 6'4". Wouldn't we all? And last but by no means least, and may I say the bravest submission of all, we have the Flying Scotsman, who has actually built not a striker, but an athletic/attacking fullback with masterful passing and crossing, maxed out in just the one attribute, and that is natural fitness. So that's actually 2 players that have gone with 20 in this attribute. Very interesting to see how that plays out. Very interesting as well to see how a fullback does, world reputation wise, against 5 flying forwards. In the interest of time, we're going to fast forward this bit where we looked at who was recruited where, but in summary, my striker landed a role as Isaac's understudy at Newcastle. FM Russ was still a free agent, but eventually started the season with Aston Villa. Odin went to Freiburg. Davelklatzen landed the biggest job, I think, as Man United's new target man. The Flying Scotsman was bound for Serie A and Lazio, whilst BradTP was also going to start his career in Germany, but how long would we stay at those clubs? So we're about to look at season on season how these 6 players have performed, but just before we get started, I want to say a big thanks to getting involved to the other 5 participants. It's been an absolute blast, and B, this has been so much fun. I'm already thinking about doing the next one. If you want to get involved in that, head over to Twitter and give us a follow at FM Immortal, and we will incorporate as many people into the next one of these Build-A-Beasts as we can. You are about to witness over 1,500 goals being scored, over 60 trophies being lifted, a very, very lofty prize for one person. Dozens of individual awards have been won in the 15 years we've simulated, and people even surpass Erling Haaland. Let's go. So we've added a few columns in here then. We've got wage, we've got appearances and goals and XG for this season, as well as average rating this season. Then we've got all-time appearances, all-time goals, international appearances, and that world reputation figure, which, if you recall, began life at 250 for all of us. And I'm pleased to say I'm in the top 2 for the world reputation score. I think the statue of Manchester United has landed Davelklatzen at the top. We've got Odin, Brad, Russ, and then the Flying Scotsman. The Flying Scotsman, though, has got the best overall average rating by a considerable distance, I'd say, and all-time appearances and all-time goals. That's obviously going to be further behind for a fullback than it is the rest of them, so it's a little bit skewed towards the strikers, this set of stats. But after one season, player with the most appearances is me, FM Immortal, on 44 with 21 goals from 14.4 XG as well. But I'm sure that won't sustain. And if Brad joins me at Newcastle, that would be funny. But we'll see what happens in the next season. And by the end of season 2, the Flying Scotsman had shot up in transfer value as expected, but now played for Lazio. Meanwhile, BradTP had signed for PSG. Odin has gone to Chelsea. Klatzen and Immortal are still at United and Newcastle respectively, and Russ still at Villa, but now wanted by PSG as well. So the Wonder Kids are starting to get more reputable, and let's have a look at the stats again. So I think in terms of goals, all-time goals, FM Immortal is leading, and now with a 7.05 average rating, so that's a little bit more promising, and Mr. Consistent, 21 goals in each season so far. World reputation wise though, he is paling in insignificance to BradTP, who's at the bigger club in PSG, and his world reputation is just under 6,200 now, with Russ actually at the bottom end of that spectrum at 3,454. But everyone's worth a pretty penny. There's absolutely no denying it. BradTP has obviously got himself a mega contract at PSG and is worth over £130 million. By the end of season 3 then, the trophies were starting to flow. FM Immortal at Newcastle had bagged himself, or myself, a Carabao Cup. BradTP was understandably starting to tear up League 1 with PSG, but the headlines go to OdinWhiteHairGaiming for his performance in the FA Cup final that year, coming off the bench for Victor Osimhen at Chelsea to score the winner, helping them to retain the cup. So we are now at the end of season 5, and even though I had become unsackable I could no longer continue because my club that I wasn't actually paying any attention to got relegated so many times they were not in a playable league anymore. Good stuff. Everyone's still at the same club, and the transfer values are still astronomically growing. So BradTP is now worth nearly 300 million, as is FM Immortal, that's us. Klatzen nearly 200. Odin coming in at the 150 mark. Russ then just below 100, and the Flying Scotsman again the only wing back at around the £50 million mark. But it's all to change, I think. There are a couple of clubs interested. BradTP is wanted by Man United as well, so he could be joining Davil. Russ is wanted by United or Spurs, and the Flying Scotsman is wanted by Newcastle or AC Milan. Everyone's kind of got the same amount of total appearances. Actual leader at the moment for all-time goals is FM Russ at Aston Villa. Then FM Immortal is one behind, and BradTP is a little bit further behind. And then world reputation, this is where it gets interesting. BradTP is now leading the charge, 8.2k, against a couple of people in the 6s and just below 5, but 8.5, and BradTP is flying, and it's probably because milestone wise he just can't stop bagging trophies with Paris Saint-Germain. By the end of Season 6, the majority of us were bagging trophies. BradTP continued to take France by storm. FM Immortal added a Europa Conference League trophy to his cabinet. OdinWhiteHairGaiming couldn't stop winning FA Cup trophies. And FM Russ boasted a Europa League and Super Cup win with Villa before departing for Manchester United. By the end of Season 7, the world reputation race was really heating up, with BradTP surpassing Erling Haaland already. And this is before you're really at your peak at age 27, 28, so this is only 25 years old, I think everyone is at this moment in time. And it was about to get a whole lot better for 5 of us. So in order to keep things fair, I thought I would make everyone the same nationality, but I did think I was doing the Flying Scotsman well by making him Scottish. Turns out I couldn't have been more off with that judgment, because in 2030 in the World Cup, England would go on to crowning glory with a 2-1 win over Italy. Now sadly there was no standout performances from any of our players, but it did mean that 5 of the 6 participants here lifted the Jules Rimet. Sorry about that, the Flying Scotsman. So beyond these seasons, most of us stayed at our clubs. There wasn't actually that much change, except for the slow evolution of our world reputation. So we're going to skip on to the very final results now, which we'll read in reverse order from 6 to 1. So let's see who has built the best beast. Starting out with me then, and by far I was the worst of all the strikers, unfortunately. I had a sorry end to my career, started my decline I think before anyone else, and never again will I overlook determination, natural fitness and stamina when I'm building my profile, because I think that was really telling towards the end of my career. I started out so promisingly with that 3rd place NXGN, but moving to Tottenham at the end of my career didn't seem to do anything for me, and I was in more decline than the people around me. But how decorated was I? Well, not very is the answer. I got 2 Carabao Cups, 1 Europa Conference League, and the World Cup, of course, which the majority of the players in this list also took home. Individual awards then, Premier League top goal scorer twice, so that's pretty good, and Young Player of the Season twice, but only the 4 accolades to take home, and my peak world reputation was just 9,312. So that's not going to win this competition, I don't think. Let's move on then to the Flying Scotsman, who I have to apologise straight up. I should have been clearer that we were doing strikers, or the rest of us were anyway. You were the only side back, and it was a bit telling, I think, in terms of how many trophies you took home and the clubs that you moved around to. So you were incredibly loyal to Lazio as soon as you joined them. Unfortunately for you, you then joined me at Newcastle, and I didn't bring home any silverware either. So you go home with a 0 trophies, and just the 2 individual awards as well, Player of the Season and Young Player of the Season, whilst you were in Serie A at Lazio. However, your peak world reputation was significantly higher than mine, so you got up to 9,405 and were just one of the best looking wingbacks in the world throughout. So unfortunately I also made you Scottish because of the name. Kind of did you dirty there because they lifted the World Cup. and I robbed you of a trophy. So apologies for that. But you come in just above me at 5th. In 4th then, next we're going to go to FM Russ, and finished very strong, did FM Russ. So 9,460 was the joint top world reputation peak, so did really well, moving to Barcelona as well in the later stages of their career. You took home 10 trophies and you've come in at 4th, which is insane. But you had Conference League, Europa League ×2, Super Cup ×2, the World Cup, of course, a Spanish Cup, and a couple of Charity Shield equivalent cups as well. You were the Under-21 Golden Boot winner at one stage and La Liga top goal scorer on 2 occasions, so 3 individual awards. And yeah, your peak reputation, as we mentioned, 9,460, which is the joint top. And that is 4th place. That is a fairly decorated career. Let's move on next then to Davelklatzen, who ended his career as essentially one of Manchester United's greatest ever legends, staying with the club throughout the entire career as well. Davel took home just the 4 trophies, but significantly more player awards and a decent reputation to boot. So the Europa League, the World Cup, the FA Cup and the Premier League, those are some pretty lofty goals, so well done. You were star of the season on 1 occasion, player of the season on 2 occasions, Golden Boot winner on 2 occasions as well, and 9,443 was your world reputation. So that's a very, very strong performance. But we're going now into our top 2. And this is where it's going to get a little bit controversial, because splitting these 2 is incredibly difficult. But there's a really good reason why I put the first person in first place. We're going to go to BradTP next, who has lifted the most trophies by a landslide. He had his hands on 33 pieces of silverware throughout his career. The Charity Shield equivalent in France, the Trophée des Champs, was won 8 times by BradTP. French Cup then lifted 6 times, the French League 13 times out of 15, so that's pretty strong. The Super Cup as well for 2, the Club World Cup once, the Champions League twice, and the World Cup, of course. You were most promising player twice, league top goal scorer 4 times, Under-21 Player of the Year, UEFA Champions League top goal scorer once each, 9 individual awards for BradTP, and a peak world reputation of 9,448, which at the time was better than Haaland. But I think the player that had the best career, most decorated and most impressive for the duration has actually got to be OdinWhiteHairGaiming, who ended up at Chelsea. He ended up with a peak world reputation of 9,460 as well, so that matches FM Russ's achievement. But this guy's trophy list is absolutely impeccable. Odin's first trophy then was the DFB Pokal, which, if you're not aware, is the Bundesliga equivalent of the FA Cup. And that would really set the scene for Odin, actually. So he would go on to lift the FA Cup with Chelsea in the next season, then retain it in the season after that, then retain it in the season after that, then retain it in the season after that. This guy was a cup eater. He won the FA Cup 6 times throughout his career. The Community Shield then he lifted once as well. The World Cup that everyone apart from the Flying Scotsman had, of course, is also in this guy's locker. He had the Carabao Cup, the Europa League, the Super Cup, the Club World Cup and the Premier League. So he basically won it all apart from the Champions League, despite the fact that he was a Champions League Player of the Season once and top goal scorer twice. He also had the Premier League top goal scorer on 3 occasions, which is the most, I think, of everyone apart from Brad, who dominated the French League, of course. The Player of the Year then, and the Golden Boy for Odin as well. But the big one, the Goal 50 winner. He was the only player to win this, and then he became the runner-up the year after as well. But he was the best player in the game at the end of the 2024 season, which is absolutely insane and such a high accolade to get. I've got to therefore give it to OdinWhiteHairGaiming for winning this competition. So congratulations. Now, it wouldn't be an FM Immortal video without a few lessons learned, so let me wrap these up quick snap. Number 1, strikers will always be the most costly assets in this game. You'll have seen that from those price tags throughout our careers, that we were worth a combined £1 billion at one point. Number 2, determination, stamina, natural fitness. Do not overlook these things in players you want to develop and keep for a long time. They are vital. Number 3, the rich get richer when it comes to world reputation in this game, so getting to a high level or loaning to a higher level will translate to bigger and better things for your players for both development and financials. Number 4, it is really tough to break into that goal 50 team of the year, so hats off again to OdinWhiteHairGaiming for taking that accolade. He was the only one to get even into the best squad. Number 5 then, this has been so much fun, so do follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and stay tuned for more Build a Beast challenges, because we will be doing this again. Big shout out again then to everyone who got involved with this video, their links and socials linked in the description, and Odin, I will be in touch with details about your prize. That's going to wrap it for today's video then folks, a little longer than our usual videos, but if you are new here, go check out our channel. We're nearing 100 vids on there now, and this one on beating the AI in transfer negotiations is what I think you should watch next. Until next time then my friends, adios.